From the studios of Farm Journal Broadcast, this is AgDay.
Coming up on AgDay.
Hey Colton, you want some sack lunches tomorrow too?
Yeah.
Okay.
Schools are closed, but bus drivers are still hitting the road to get food to kids in need. As Americans continue to buy big at the grocery store.
We understand that the domestic flour mills are running night and day, now trying to catch up with that bread demand.
The U.S. Congress is poised to launch what may be the largest bailout in the history of the U.S.
To the American people, we say big help, quick help is on the way because we face about the most unprecedented health crisis we have.
Good morning, I'm Clinton Griffiths. Help is on the way. That's according to New York Democratic Senator Chuck Schumer after the White House and Senate leaders of both parties announced agreement on a $2 trillion emergency bill to rush aid to people in need hit by the coronavirus outbreak. Here are the basics on the 500-page plus measure. It would give one-time direct payments to Americans, $1,200 per adult, making up to $75,000 a year, and $2,400 to a married couple, making up to $150,000, with $500 payments per child. Democrats say the package also helps replace the salaries of furloughed workers for 4 months. They would get whatever amount a state usually provides for unemployment, plus a $600 per week add-on. Specific for farmers and ranchers, the legislation would include a $14 billion increase for the Commodity Credit Corporation. That's the account USDA has used in the past to make trade aid payments. And that includes a $9.5 billion assistance plan for livestock producers and specialty crops. Republican Senator John Hoeven of North Dakota among those pushing for money for producers to be put in the legislation.
We have worked to make sure that there is provision in there, so whether it's our cattle producers or whether it's our farmers raising crops across this great nation, that they can continue to do what they do every day on behalf of all Americans.
This is workers first, and let me explain that. So many people have been thrown out of work through no fault of their own. The restaurant closes, the small business closes. Now all of those people will be able to apply quickly and easily for unemployment insurance, and most of them will get their full salaries or very, very close to it. And they can be furloughed, which means that they can stay on the payroll of the company they work for, keep the benefits that that company was giving them, and then when God willing, this horrible crisis is over, these businesses can reassemble because the employees will not have been scattered to the wind.
Republicans won the inclusion of an employee retention tax credit. Now it's estimated it will provide $50 billion to companies that retain employees on payroll and cover 50% of workers' paychecks. We've seen the high demand for food right now in the country, especially for things like beef. Now Drover's putting a price tag on how it's impacting the beef industry. It's thanks to a new Sterling beef profit tracker. It puts the beef cutout price at $241 per hundredweight. The average cash cattle price was just under $110. Now Sterling is estimating beef packer margins at $504 for the end of last week. A month ago, that margin was just over $69. But with China starting to open back up, it appears to be buying more U.S. corn. Sources telling Farm Journal China may have booked another 250,000 metric tons of U.S. Gulf corn on Tuesday. That would take total recent purchases to 1 million metric tons. Now, USDA is reporting a flash sale of 138,000 metric tons of corn Wednesday, but for delivery to unknown destinations. The coronavirus has had a ripple effect on commodities since the outbreak hit U.S. shores. One telltale sign, grocery store shelves in constant flux. Many bare or pick through as consumers return to eating at home. AgDay national reporter Betsy Gibbon joins us. And Betsy, you focused in on what the wheat market is doing.
Clinton, wheat has been a hot ticket over the last couple of weeks. China made a big purchase last week. It's important to know that purchase will not be shipped until a later date next marketing year. However, the demand for wheat has been both international and domestic. The flour and bread shelves are bare at supermarkets across the U.S. as the domestic demand climbs during the coronavirus pandemic.
We understand that the domestic flour mills are running night and day, now trying to catch up with that bread demand.
Shelves are expected to remain empty until the virus is under control.
I do find it interesting that wheat of all the commodities is what we have most plentiful really around the world. And yet during this global pandemic, it seems that everyone is kind of going for flour and pastas and breads and those kind of items is kind of like feeding the idea that the wheat market is going to rally.
Wheat futures have been trading mostly higher due to export demand too, as nations are increasing purchases to maintain an inventory of wheat.
We made a new deal, as you know, with China, a very big trade deal, and China has been buying our agricultural product.
The want for wheat is there. Even Russia suspends sales for a couple of weeks. China buying roughly 340,000 metric tons of hard red winter wheat. ProFarmer says that's the first sales of hard red winter wheat to China since late 2017.
There's about 37 bushels in a metric ton, so that's just about 12.5 million bushels of hard red winter wheat. Of course, that's wheat grown in the central and southern plains.
USDA saying in its weekly ratings report that wheat conditions are improving across the southern plains states. It's all welcome news for the industry as they hope the buying will continue even after the pandemic stops.
China has not made large purchases of any sort compared to what they did before since they implemented their retaliatory tariffs in March of 2018.
Because of the coronavirus, the Federal Grain Inspection Service says they're going to do everything they can in order to keep inspecting wheat so trade can continue. Clinton?
For some portions of the South, it could feel like they're passing right over spring and into summer. Meteorologist Mike Hoffman joins us now with the latest. Mike?
Yeah, that's right, Clinton. It's turning pretty warm as we move through this afternoon in much of Texas and Oklahoma. Look at that 90 forecasted in Amarillo. It'll still be pretty mild even tonight across the South, mostly 60s and a few 70s showing up for low temperatures. And then as we head into the afternoon hours tomorrow, mostly 70s, slightly less warm across Texas until you get into the far southern sections. Now, no school means more time on the farm. Corey near Slater, Iowa has some helping hands on the farm lately. This is his daughter Ava, who will turn 4 in May, helping him sample the soil for the upcoming planting season. Now I'll have more in your forecast coming up in just a little while.
All right, coming up, the latest on those small refinery waivers and what the White House didn't do. And later, school is closed, so how will some kids who rely on school lunches eat? The effort to bring lunch to them in the country. The EPA will not be appealing a court decision regarding those small refinery waivers. The EPA had until the end of Tuesday to file the appeal, but nothing was submitted. But according to Reuters, a group of small refiners did appeal the 10th Circuit Court ruling. That ruling invalidates 3 small refinery exemptions issued for 2016. Now, the American Fuel and Petrochemical Manufacturers saying the administration's decision not to file an appeal effectively ends the small refinery exemption program. Renewable fuels groups have fought against the waivers, which they say cut down on demand for their fuels such as ethanol. Corn rose on Wednesday based on speculation that demand may increase as overseas buyers build strategic reserves. We get the latest from a trader at the CME who's working from home.
Soybeans ended up lower at new high to start, and then the day just fizzled in the end. What promised to be a 7-day rally just really ran out of steam. But South America really should, with the challenges that they're having, should really underpin the market right here. So I don't see the market retreating in any significant way. Now on the corn side, it did firm up. The export demand is really looking favorable, especially because the corn had been lagging behind for a while. But it was needed because the ethanol is really, the production on the ethanol is expected to really decline, of course, because of the crash in really the crude market right now. But perhaps some of the overflow buying from wheat and soybeans really pushed the market up. But now that spring is here, Mother Nature is someone we're going to be watching closely. And that's what we're going to be paying attention to as we start to approach the end of the month to get those planting intentions. Now, wheat did surge today. That was really the big leader. 6 straight days of up. And this market has really rallied off its bottom in a way that we were kind of surprised to see. That momentum from, difficulties in Russia and in the Ukraine, that added to the friendly aspect of the fact that China is really starting to buy and honor their phase one trade deal. I think that the futures were completely ignoring the fact that U.S. wheat prices are higher than most everyone globally. And so you would think that we've been priced out of the market. But, here we are with the momentum behind these markets. And, who knows? $6 looks pretty close right now. And could we see $6 wheat? It's very possible. Cattle was sharply mixed. The cash trade is at a significant discount, which really started the day off to the races with a limit up opening, then a sell-off that turned out to be below yesterday's settlement. And then the market, we knew that we were going to be in for a wild ride. The market came all the way back, closing like halfway up the limit from where we originally started. Now, with feeders, it's a little bit easier. Now, long-term beef demand is still uncertain, in spite of the fact that China is buying, that all these limit moves have finally run out of steam. And however, volatility is here to stay really for the foreseeable future.
Join Andrew McCrae for Farming the Countryside, a farmer-focused podcast all about production agriculture. Brought to you by Pivot Bio Proven, the nitrogen-producing microbes that stay put, weather or not. Visit pivotbio.com.
Meteorologist Mike Hoffman here, taking a look at our national weather. And Mike, that almost looks like a hurricane off the East Coast.
Yeah,
a pretty big storm.
Yeah, if it were a little bit farther west, we'd be calling that a nor'easter.
Right,
yeah,
right.
Coming in. But it's going to stay offshore, so I didn't put it on the map this morning. Now, if you happen to be watching us in eastern Canada, far eastern Canada, that's going to combine with this area of low pressure, and you might get affected by it. Otherwise, we're looking at a front, basically, from the northeast into the southwest. That's going to slowly come southward, then stall out. Each one of these little areas of waves of energy will produce some moisture with it as well. High pressure dominating the southeast. That's why it's going to stay warm and dry there. So let's put the maps into motion. You can see how quickly everything's kind of moving. Again, there'll be some showers near and mainly north of these areas of low pressure as they ride along that front. There's this afternoon with some showers from the Chicagoland area back across parts of the north central plains. Heading through the nighttime hours tonight into tomorrow morning, the rain intensifies a little bit as it moves into the central Appalachians and into the mid-Atlantic states, even into the New York City area. And you can see this is a very slow-moving storm system. It's going to come a little farther eastward into the western plains by the time we get to tomorrow afternoon. Still be putting down some snow in the higher elevations, and then you get east of the Rockies, mainly in the form of rain. Let's check precipitation estimate over the past 24 hours, mostly from the Great Lakes into the west. Adding in the next 36, we're going to add more a little bit farther south, closer to that front. And with that front hanging out there, we're still going to see more moisture as we head into the first half of the weekend. So some of these areas, unfortunately, you don't need any more, but probably going to get some more moisture Friday night and Saturday. And you can see the moisture just kind of scattered through the west. Looking at the snowfall, the higher elevations, it's mainly in the form of snow past 24 hours. We'll add a little bit more in those areas, mainly out west, and a little bit across the northern plains and far northern Great Lakes. None of that's going to really be any big deal at this point. Here are the temperatures this afternoon. There's the heat. Look at Amarillo, like I pointed out earlier in the show, 90. Same thing in Brownsville. You can see the cooler air, though, off to the north, and that's going to slowly come a little farther south. It's not blasting south by any stretch. There's tomorrow morning. Heading through tomorrow afternoon, the warmth really throughout the southern plains into the southeast. Taking a look at the jet stream, and this is why you get that big ridge pumping up. That's what's bringing in the heat. Now, we do get that trough kind of digging through the Great Lakes into the northeast as we head through the weekend into early next week, and another trough in the northwest and northeast by the time we get to later next week. That's a look across the country. Now let's take a look at some local forecasts. Sacramento, California, looking cool today. A mixture of sunshine and clouds, high around 60. Kansas City, Missouri, mostly cloudy and mild, high near 70. And Charleston, South Carolina, partly sunny skies, not as warm as it's been, high around 71.
In America's conservation ag movement, a new high-protein soybean variety is hoping to find new acres this spring as part of the plant-based food movement. The genetics come from St. Louis startup Benson Hill. They say the variety has up to 50% more protein than current varieties. They hope to see it grown for the plant-based meat industry. Now, according to the researchers, the soybeans were developed using traditional breeding methods, and they hope to start contracting with farmers next year. Benson Hill plans to process and sell soybean protein concentrate to food companies, where it's a key ingredient in the plant-based protein industry. Still ahead, cattle producers are looking at margins and the impact of the coronavirus. Could government aid help? Plus, one small effort that's making a big difference for people needing food right now.
Your next piece of equipment is on MachineryPete.com. Search equipment from dealerships across the country to find what you're looking for. Only on MachineryPete.com.
As we told you at the top of the newscast, livestock producers are included in the latest round of aid from the government following the coronavirus outbreak. As you know, prices have been on a wild ride since concerns about the virus first sent people to the grocery store to buy up beef, creating turbulence across the industry. I asked Greg Henderson of Drovers about the importance of that aid.
They've taken a brunt of a lot of this, and the feeder cattle prices dropped dramatically quickly. People who typically sell holdover feeders and sell this time of year, got caught into this. And there was not a lot of margin in those cattle to begin with because of where we're at in the cattle cycles. So, definitely this is a tough time. And as you know, the weather that we had last year didn't help matters any. So they would like to participate as well.
Happening right now, the FDA is relaxing some rules allowing veterinarians to see animals via telemedicine. The move to examine animals virtually is to encourage social distancing. For some kids, school lunch is their best meal of the day. As districts close, many are still trying to get food to the kids in need. That story next in the country. Schools around the country now closed out of caution for the coronavirus, and that means millions of kids aren't getting school lunches. Tyne Morgan shows us how one small district in Missouri is putting those meals on wheels.
A route this bus travels daily.
Okay, we're coming up to our first stop.
But this time, empty with no kids inside.
And here's 2 bag lunches for y'all. Yeah, thank you. Y'all have a good day.
Stop after stop.
Hi, Anthony.
The bus is delivering more than a familiar face.
Good morning, Robbie. How are you?
It's delivering a necessity to students that some thought they may have to do without. Jerry McGraw is one of 3 bus drivers in Hardin, Missouri, going beyond his typical weekday job.
What we're doing is we're delivering sack lunches. We're seeing who is available to receive those sack lunches and finding out who needs them. How many meals I got today, Shannon?
One of several patriots in this small town.
We're utilizing the buses to go around and serve these sack lunches to the needy children.
Stepping up in a time of need.
That's one service that we felt like was imperative that we could continue to offer our students who are in need of this.
Trey Kavanaugh is the superintendent for Hardin Central Schools. After the school made the decision to close school for at least a week, the school board knew the district needed to act and act fast.
A lot of students and parents rely on the school for providing food for their child or children. And we want to make sure that we reach our children during this time that they're away from school.
Answering a common call for a student body that boasts small numbers, but a lot of pride.
And luckily, we decided that we would use our cooks, our bus drivers, even some of our hourly staff to help prepare the meals, to set them up for distribution.
One of those who stepped up was the head cook.
I am filling bags so that we can deliver to the students that are in need or want a lunch.
Filling lunch bags?
Right around 65 to 70.
For McGraw and other drivers to deliver.
We are very pleased with the response, very pleased.
And her biggest concern was one that was simple, but one with a strong need.
Worried about feeding the kids.
Proving being a head cook at this school isn't just a job.
Just worried that they're gonna get a meal.
It's a second family, a family that extends beyond these school halls.
Very important for the community. Shows everybody that we care about one another.
Students need to get fed.
It's a wonderful thing that the school provides these meals for these kids that are in need.
Rallying together to feed a community.
Bye!
Giving them one less worry in the midst of hazy times. Reporting from Hardin, Missouri, I'm Tyne Morgan for AgDay.
Thanks, Tyne, and that's all the time we have this morning. Sure glad you tuned in. From all of us here at AgDay, I'm Clinton Griffiths. Have a safe day on Farm Country.